This very old man, this couple sitting with such quiet dignity, this mother with her child, all are Americans of Japanese descent. So too is the rest of this audience, which here listens with solemn pride as the Army honors their sacred dead. Japanese American soldiers killed in action. Afterwards, a wife who has lost her husband is presented with the Silver Star. A father receives the Distinguished Service Cross. His son was killed in Italy, where he and thousands of other Japanese Americans, including the son of this woman, have produced one of the most remarkable combat records of the war. Important and decisive battles. And each time, these men of the 100th Infantry Battalion and the 442nd Combat Team have been right out in front. Here, after bitter fighting, they enter Livorno, one more ill-fated town that has been pounded into rubble as the Fifth Army makes its slow, tortuous advance up the hot, dry valleys of Italy. Already within the buildings, the dead have begun to stink as the men deploy cautiously, wary of enemy snipers that have been left behind. And the Nazis, when they're rounded up, are plenty surprised. Suspicious of their own propaganda, Hans believes he's begun to fight Japan, too. Fritz thinks that maybe these GIs are Chinese troops, recently transferred to the Italian front. The casualties are returned to field hospitals. The seriously wounded immediately undergo emergency operations. While this GI, lying under a tent, has already begun his period of convalescence. Outside, the men walk around, read, talk, and anxiously await the day when they will go back into action. Sometimes they don't wait, but pulling an AWOL in reverse, join their companies on the battlefield before their wounds are completely healed. Sounds crazy? Well, maybe. But these men don't think so. They've got a reason for being one of the top outfits in this war, as one of them testifies.
I'm from Seattle. After war was declared, I was evacuated from the Pacific Coast. When the call came for volunteers for a combat team, I volunteered from a relocation center to show my loyalty and to prove that I had the right to live as a good American citizen.
That's pretty much the story of all these men. Born in Hawaii or on the Pacific Coast, they've grown up and gone to school in Honolulu, Pomona, Los Angeles, San Jose. They've played football, visited drive-ins, gone to the movies at night. Their memories are the memories of all Americans, as the paper airplanes which they make for these Italian kids so clearly proves. At the same time, these men are also aware of the great prejudice against them because of the war in the Pacific. They know that there are people back home who make no distinction between them and the Japs we have fought at Tarawa, at Saipan, and the Philippines. That's why these men originally volunteered, and why for 11 long months now, they've been in continuous combat. They've wanted to prove to other Americans how wrong it is to judge a man by the pigment of his skin or the shape of his eyes. They've wanted to prove that a soldier can fight better as a free man with a belief in God than he can as a slave with a belief in the imperial Japanese religion of Shintoism.
Lieutenant O'Hara, your battalion has done a wonderful job in this Italian campaign. What are your reasons for fighting?
I'm fighting over here for the better things of life and to preserve the American way of living.
After their gear is once more in order, the men of the 100th Infantry Battalion march to where they are to receive a citation from General Mark Clark, commander of the Fifth Army. General Clark, as he will tell you, is of Irish-English descent. Many of our GIs who once fought against the Italians are of Italian descent. Thousands of our men now fighting on the Western Front are of German descent. But as in the case of these Japanese, they are no less Americans, ready to fight for their country and their belief in democracy.
All of you Americans of Japanese descent have a right to be proud today. You have demonstrated true Americanism and true American citizenship on the field of battle. You have realized the necessity of coming to this distant land and leaving your homes and your loved ones in order that you could destroy this enemy who would take from you the American way of life and the freedoms which we value so highly in America. You have another right to be proud, for you have reached the high standards of American fighting men. You are always willing to close with the enemy. He has no bluff on you, and you've always defeated him. And let me tell you again, the 34th Division is proud of you, the 5th Army is proud of you, America is proud of you. And I know that whatever future action you go into, you will conduct yourselves with glory and bring about the peace that we are entitled to. Good luck to you, and God bless you.
On the German front, to aid the men of the United States 36th Division's Lost Battalion, shells are loaded with food and medicine instead of explosives to be fired across enemy lines. Trapped for 5 days without supplies, the Lost Battalion is enabled to hold out only with the help of this cannon-sent aid. American troops of Japanese descent, men who have distinguished themselves repeatedly in the European War, move out to rescue the battalion. In heavy fighting, they advance to cut an escape route through the Nazi line. German prisoners are taken as the breakthrough is made, and men of the Lost Battalion come back. Tired, worn, and battered, but they never gave up. The wounded are helped. Although the Lost Battalion's situation seemed hopeless, these men kept their fighting spirit through the long days of isolation. Adding another chapter to their record, these American-born troops of Japanese ancestry received decorations from General Dahlquist for their work in rescuing their comrades in arms.
Late in October, on the Vosges front in the west, there took place one of the heroic episodes of the war. A battalion of the 36th Texas Division had been cut off and lay trapped up forward in the hills without communications and surrounded by superior enemy forces. While a unit battled ahead to relieve them, they held on grimly day after bitter day. Medical supplies and rations were fired to them by artillery. A near miss would have been useless here. The shells had to land squarely on the target or else fall into enemy hands. It was the 442nd Infantry Division that was ordered to cut a way through to them. This was the famous and unique battalion composed of Americans of Japanese ancestry, volunteers all. They were fighting as they had fought in Italy to prove their loyalty to their American homeland, to prove again that democracy embraces all creeds, all races. For 9 days, while the Texans hung on grimly up ahead, they cut their way forward in bitter cold and in some of the toughest fighting country on the Western Front. They took prisoners, sometimes in hand-to-hand fighting, and on the 10th day, they broke their way through. The lost battalion of this Second World War had been relieved. Tired men, tired to exhaustion, but unbeaten. Here are the men who fought in that trap. They came out with their wounded and with their dead. They will not forget those 9 days they fought in the Vosges. Look at this man's eyes. These are the sorts of men for whom words like courage and doggedness are used by the historians. Look well at all these men. These are the sorts of men about whom legends are started. Someday they'll say, I was in the 36th, the Texans. We were up in the Vosges, and once we were cut off for 9 days. And what of the troops who got through to them? The 442nd. They came out too when it was over, carrying their wounded. These too are the kinds of men about whom fine words are sometimes used. These too are Americans, and they've proved it with the full measure of their loyalty. They too fought during those 9 bitter days. They too brought back their wounded. They too brought back their dead.